Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Low Rollers and Live Dungeons & Dragons live adventure. My name is Danny Allinson, and as always, I will be your host and playing the role of Bryn Wanders. And with me here tonight, Jonathan Edwards as Narroth, Prince of Thieves.
Hello.
Danny Garcia playing the role of Astor Mithlader.
Hello.
We have Rachael Murphy playing Iskrim Berzon.
Howdy, friends.
Alan Seymour playing Lady Lilith von Kiln.
Sup?
We have Robert Seitz lurking somewhere in the shadows as Zarrius, servant of Obad-hai, and finally our illustrious dungeon master, Christopher Rondeau. Chris, why don't you get us caught up with what happened last week and get us rolling on this week of Low Rollers Live.
Last week, a brief and hard battle was fought. The legend of Conrad proves that there is in fact more truth to the legend that many people have figured, and it definitely runs fresh in our hero's mind. Exhausted and tired, they found that there was still work to be done after this fight, and a gravesite had to be built, and the gathering of dead the project was sent. The last rites was given by Lady Lilith von Kiln, accompanied by Astor at this festival of returning light. And at the moment, with the moon staring at our party, we realized that the promise of the festival of returning light was fulfilled, and souls began to return for the evening to talk to their loved ones. So, at this moment, we have 5 out of our 6 party members participating in the Festival of Returning Light, setting down lanterns to hopefully communicate with their loved ones. Or maybe not their loved ones, but at least the ones that have passed on and they want to get a better sort of communication with them, I guess. We're going to open with Astor. Astor, you put down 2 lanterns, if I am not mistaken.
That is correct.
So why don't you tell me about the 2 people who you want to talk to, and then we'll montage the father scene, and then we'll have a specific scene for the other person.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, one of the 2 is definitely Astor's father. The reason for that is kind of just so Astor can kind of do a, how do I put this? Checking in type of thing, I guess. You know, he's seen his mother, but he hasn't seen his father for quite a while, so he figured this might be a decent opportunity to do that if it presented itself. Now, as for the other person, it is Ryan E. Aldwin, which those of us who have been playing this campaign for a while do know that he kind of acted as a mentor of sorts towards Astor and kind of helped shape him who he is as a character now, though Astor is, I would say, still developing into, I guess, what I would see him being in the long run. But this is also kind of a checking in with Ryan, or perhaps even just asking for a bit of advice or 2.
Cool. So I wrote down that every character would get about 10 minutes to converse with their loved ones. So in the case of Astor, you would probably get about 5 minutes each. So in this brief moment when you were talking to your father, what does that look like, sound like? You know, give me some insight about how you would react, what questions you would ask, that sort of thing.
Sure. So, honestly, Astor had a pretty good relationship with his dad. Probably never got wind that there might be something weird going on behind the scenes, so he would probably just ask him actually what it was like for him to be a father, because Astor himself is, pretty much a dad now. So he probably would ask him, like, what are some things to keep in mind, and what are some things that his dad thought he could do better, those types of things.
Yeah.
And, sorry, go ahead.
how do you think he would react to that, knowing that he could have potentially been a grandfather if he was still alive? And, what kind of advice do you think he would give you, since he had a very direct role in your life?
He would probably say to, do the same as he did. Try and be as involved with the kid as you can. Be very supportive, kind of figure out what they're good at, figure out what are some things to work on. Just help them build character. And the best way to do that would be for you to, be a good role model yourself. Have stories you can tell, have things that you can say you're proud of having done. Also, have lessons that you've learned yourself to teach your child. That way they can, learn from something that's already happened, so they don't have to experience it themselves. And of course, he would probably be ecstatic that, his son is having, his son had a son.
Cool. So you have this conversation. I imagine that he has a lot of pride in you right now, saying that you were going to become a father. And, I don't imagine the dead to be able to really see what's going on in the actual world and the afterlife, whether they're in the Shadowfell or the Astral Sea or, God forbid, the Nine Hells. They don't have much going on, but I think enough people have passed who have mentioned Astor's name, especially considering the Shadowfell storyline, that he knows a little bit of his deeds, and I see him kind of beaming with pride at the fact that his son has become such a prominent member in this world, despite, you growing up and being, debatably the least necessary person of society, which is a performer.
True.
With that being said, you wanted to call on Ryan Yaldwin. I gave Danny Allinson a couple notes. This is Danny Allinson's old character, so I figured it'd be appropriate for Danny Allinson to kind of roleplay this thing. So why don't we start that scene as well? I'm actually going to time you 5 minutes because that's how much time would make sense. So go ahead. Whenever you're ready, Danny. You see Ryan Yaldwin. A couple things to note, though, is that you see him in his armor, his cape. He is holding his two swords, but his face appears to be blurred. You had a very clear distinction of who your father was. You can recognize his features, definitely of him in his older years, but he was still very distinct. Ryan Yaldwin's features seem kind of blurred. It's a very weird thing. But go ahead.
That is weird. Hey, Ryan, how are you doing?
Is that Astor?
Yeah. Glad you recognize my voice still.
What's going on?
Well, I am partaking in a festival called the Festival of Returning Light, which apparently we can get in contact with some people who have moved on if we choose to do so. Hope I'm not bothering you.
I can spare some time.
Glad to hear it. So I had a couple of, one or two questions I would actually like to ask you.
Okay.
I guess the first thing would be that, have you heard much about what has been going on here, as in where I've been?
Bits and pieces. I've been stuck.
Stuck?
Yeah. Ever since the shadow fell. Stuck.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
Well, death isn't exactly what they tell you it is.
Interesting. Well, as much as I'd like to help you, that's kind of beyond me, I'm afraid.
Oh,
but,
don't worry about me.
Well, can't help but care a little bit, right?
Your other question.
Yeah, so I have been trying to follow in the path that you gave me just before you left, I guess we'd say. As much as I've been trying to do that the best I can, I'm afraid I'd have to say that I lack confidence in being able to say I have been doing it. So I was just wondering if you might be able to give me a little more insight in what you meant to be the leader of this ragtag band of ours, I suppose.
Listen, make the decision, and stick with that. And take responsibility for it. I can't say that I was the perfect leader, but I'd like to think that when it came down to the end, I followed through.
Well, you are where you are because you fell through.
Oh well, more than you know.
I suppose so. What do you think would be the odds of me seeing you again after now?
To be completely honest, very high.
Oh.
I'm not stuck anymore.
You're welcome?
Huh?
You're welcome?
What? No, I'm not stuck where I was. I found a way out.
Oh. I guess it might have been my fault you got stuck then.
Well, I found a way back.
Well, it's good to hear. It was nice speaking to you again. I hope you do well with whatever the heck it is you're doing. Also, try and fix your face. I couldn't see your face.
Well, I'm doing the best I can in that regards. But I know very little about what you went through, and I'm trying to understand a little bit more.
That's alright. That would have to wait for another time when I can actually, tell you my story a bit more.
I know the story, Astor. I was there.
Well, I mean, since then.
Ah. There's more since then.
There's a lot more since then. Oh, and just so you know, I am a father now.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I figured it wouldn't hurt to tell you.
I hope you take good care of the child.
I'll do the best I can.
I'm sure you will.
Well, thanks for taking a little time.
Astor.
Hmm?
You have the ability. The confidence will come. But do your best, and I'll see you soon.
Take it easy, my friend.
And Ryan will fade back into the lake, and Astor will basically find himself back on the beach, or not the beach, but the coastline of that lake. It's probably not the right word either. And with his loot, just finishing up the last rites. We're gonna go to Eastgrim at this point. Eastgrim is from the Cascade Range. His father was a chief. You want to give me a little bit of insight about the father, some descriptors, tell me a little bit about what you talk about?
Sure thing. So, his father was kind of massive for a dwarf, and so he kind of got the nickname Rampaging Bear because he was also pretty much a barbarian. And as the chief, he very much took care of, making sure that the clan was together, that everybody was doing well. He was very communally focused. And how he died, he was actually on a hunt with a bunch of his clansmen, and they were actually being attacked by a gigantic walrus. And so he basically tried to take it down and put himself in the way of the walrus, and it basically killed him. So that was how he died. His relationship with Iskrim was really good. Iskrim, short of idolizing his father, is pretty much in that place where he like deeply respects and honors his father, and wants to do good by him.
Cool. So you get this visual of your father. What do you talk about? Yeah.
In terms of what they would talk about, the first thing he would actually do is see that, or ask, if his father was okay in the life beyond, as much as they could talk. He's not really asking for details. They didn't really do that much. It would be mostly like, are you okay? Is it a good place? If his father basically nodded, that would be enough. Then he would briefly describe basically what's going on in the world at large right now and ask for advice from his father. And his father would probably give him some stoic advice saying, you're on a good path. Don't stray from the path that you're on. Be strong. Don't let people sway your will and weaken you, and just do right by the clan.
Perfect. It's touching, I think. A fair way to do that. Do you think your dad will give you any advice on how to deal with the clan specifically?
I think probably not, because his father never would have encountered this situation. So his only advice is really to, be true to who you are, basically the strong person that you have been since I've raised you, and do what you can to save the clan, because that's how we will survive.
Cool. We're going to go to Lilith. You put out lanterns for both Roland and your father, correct?
Correct.
First thing you realize is that Roland's spirit does not appear to be there. You don't quite understand the festival, but you don't know if he didn't answer the call or maybe it's something else, but that lantern has, the light has gone out.
Mm-hmm.
But you do see your father. Would you like to describe that a little bit?
Okay. So, something that, specifically I was going to ask him is because of the civil war in Tyria. I just sort of, I guess, would ask him advice on what to do, because in my mind he always had the right answer. And try to just understand what to do with that whole situation.
And what advice do you think he would give you?
I think as excuse me, as staunch of a person that he was in life, I would think that he would want me to do what was right, and do what was in my heart, and not let outside influences influence my decision.
Do you guys like hug or shake hands, or is it very formal?
He was a very formal type of guy, so it would probably be like sort of just like a hand, like a hand on my arm, acknowledging that he's like proud of me. But other than that, it probably wouldn't be any more affectionate than that.
Cool. You speak with him. Then I'd imagine you looked for Roland at this point, and he doesn't show up.
I had a suspicion.
Cool. We move on to Zarrius. Zarrius, why don't you describe the two people you are trying to meet, and maybe tell us a little about your relationship with them. I don't think I know a terrible amount about these two people. They play very minor roles in your backstory, at least in the details. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the two people that are showing up are my two grandparents, and they their names are Thigare and Hileda. Thigare is my grandfather, and Hileda is my grandmother. When I was...
Is this of the grandparents from your father's side or mother's side?
Technically from my father's side, but I respect them much more highly than my father. They so kind of just a little bit backstory. My grandparents were part of the Temple of Obad-hai in the natural plane, and my father was born to them and grew up trying to get away from the temple and the practices of my grandparents, and he eventually ran away and had me, in which he made the deal with the devil, and I eventually found my way back to my grandparents and found a new life with them, kind of. Their main role was they were elders of the temple. They had been there a long time. They're both gnomes, and they played an important role in the religious aspects of Zarrius. So he learned most of his religious practices from his grandparents, and they were his mentors for most of his life, and kind of quote-unquote parents, because my parents abandoned me when I was young.
So you see them, they come forward, they're likely wearing the usual garb of Obad-hai, of the priesthood or the elders or whatnot. What do you do?
You see me standing there with my staff in front of me. My staff is a little off to the side so they can see my face and I can see their faces. But the symbol of Obad-hai is standing, like, facing them. And Zarrius doesn't really say anything. He's kind of just like awestruck almost by just the fact that he's able to see them, and he gives them a typical bow in terms of the temple, sign of respect for elders and elders of the church or temple, and he gives them a bow of that nature, and he wants to see if they do anything in return in terms of just acknowledging that they see him.
And do they?
I would say they do, and they give us. I would imagine that they would give a nice smile towards him, to see that potentially he is grown up in the church or in the temple, and that he is following their faith and actively seeking Obad-hai. And you see Zarrius give a smile back and a wave with his hand, and I would imagine that they would disappear back into the lake.
All right. A unspoken hello and goodbye. This leads us to our most interesting, what's the word I want to look for? Choice. John, why don't you go ahead and just tell me a little bit about your father. Now, I'm imagining your father in this case before corruption. If you want to give me anything on that, if you'd like.
Sure. So Narroth knows very little about his father, other than the fact that he was a great, giant, ancient red dragon. Now, from the scene at the one place,
Shadowfell Tower Battle.
From the scene of the tower, there was a event that showed Narroth's father, or dementia as it's called, as in some sort of human form with his mother. Now, that may have, left a bad taste in his mouth, but it's more than he's ever known of his father before. He's gone back to his father's old lair and searched around there, but other than finding a modest amount of gold, he has not really found anything of not only his father, but of his heritage at all. Dragons are almost as a complete mystery to him as the dangers they're currently facing.
So, I think we will play out the scene. So, why don't you go ahead and shift into character and tell me what you say.
Okay. So, I'm imagining at this point, Narroth is lighting a fire in his makeshift lantern made out of different elements like stone and ice and flame, and he kind of sits cross-legged in front of the lake and closes his eyes and tries to center himself as he waits for the image of his father.
And the image does come, and we see the giant form sort of surpassing the other souls as far as size, and you enter a space which I imagine is just kind of darkness, but you can see yourself and as well as Dementia. Would you go ahead and initiate conversation?
When I hear the gasps of the other people looking up at this giant form, and I kind of feel a more heavy presence in front, Narroth would look up slowly and open his eyes, looking to the giant form of Dementia. He'd just look and stare as composed as he can, and says, "Father, it is time to talk."
Where am I?
I have brought you back for a short time. You are a memory sprung up so that I can get to know my past.
Who are you?
I am Narroth.
That doesn't tell me anything.
I am your heir, and the one who released you from the nightmare of the Shadowfell.
I see. Well, death is peaceful, and I would rather return to it.
I will let you continue your slumber. However, first, I require some some knowledge. Knowledge about you, knowledge about our heritage, knowledge about my mother.
What would you like to know?
Tell me about your life.
Okay, so maybe we will montage this a little bit. He reveals that he is the oldest race of people. Back at the beginning of time, he mentions that there were only 2 of each color of dragons, as well as the dragon with 5 heads and the platinum dragon. And all of them, so each color was paired up in 2. He'll tell you a little bit about the person that he was paired up with, the woman version of the woman ancient dragon who exists, and he'll go on to tell you a little bit about each dragon gets to choose a dragon knight to sort of be their champion, which he has never really done before, but it was something his wife was very proud of, picking a champion to sort of take on some of the power of the red dragon. He'll tell you a little bit about maybe how he amassed his wealth, which probably had to deal a great deal with pillaging, and he'll also tell you about his first death prior to going to the Shadowfell, where it seemed a band of people came together to hunt him down on order of someone known as the Emerald Dragon, which is a name that he'd never heard of until that moment. And he said when he died, he doesn't have any real recollection of about this Shadowfell event that you discussed. He will tell you a little bit about his sexual exploits to try to get a pinpoint. You probably say something like, I was born in Tyria, and he'll run off a couple names of who it is, but he doesn't know any of them that sired anybody. But the Queen of Tyria's name does pop up. Which is Queen Valencia. And honestly, you probably don't get too much more than that over 10 minutes if you want to give me a couple extra thoughts or questions before we close it up.
Yeah, so Narroth would definitely ask more about dragon heritage as a whole, what the other dragons were like. I mean, he doesn't know much about the Emerald Dragon, but especially what his pairing mate, other dragon, the female dragon, was like, and any other dragons that he could think of, and the culture that these dragons had.
Cool. You won't, because of the time length, you probably won't get too much more on the cultural heritage, but he'll tell you a little bit about the other female red dragon. He mentions that dragons are destined to be with another dragon of their same color, which for some people, including himself, he didn't really enjoy that. He felt he was, think like arranged marriage kind of culture, where you're kind of forced into a marriage, and, for some people it works great, for other people it doesn't. But he will give nothing but compliments to this female dragon and mention something about his or her location, which will be in the 7 islands to the north, which you haven't heard of before. But I think at that point he'd probably fade to black.
Ooh, that's it?
Yeah.
All right.
And so we fade back into the shore of Lake Lacarum. Everyone seems to come to relatively at the same time. Lilith and Astor finishing up the last rites. Iskrim, Zarrius, and Narroth in the crowd somewhere hearing this. We have the king and queen presiding over the burning, them physically throwing some of the torches to burn the bodies, and the camera goes back to the city of Vienna, onto a snoring, I would imagine, Bryn wanders next to a lantern that seems to snuff out. Is Bryn Wanders planning to stay there for a while?
I mean, she's asleep.
Do you want her to wake up, I guess would be the better question.
Probably not on her own. She does have at least one level of exhaustion, so she's pretty tuckered out.
Cool. With that being said, we'll return to the party, and the party finishes up the last rites. What would you like to do?
I think it's time to go to bed.
Astor's, excuse me. Astor's probably going to go around and see if there's anything more he can do to help in terms of moving stuff around. Maybe help a little bit with aid, I suppose. And if no one approaches Bryn, he'll probably go and wake up Bryn to get her to the hotel or the inn, whatever.
Bryn is in Vienna, and you are at the shore.
That'll take a while then.
Yes.
But we'll
Yeah.
see how it plays out.
Yeah, Lilith is going to head back to town, find her way to the inn, probably get something really quick to eat, and pass out. It has been a long couple of days for her. And she has some things on her mind with the not appearance of Roland.
Cool.
I would like to be joining Lilith and doing the same exact thing that she would be doing. I would imagine that I would not be saying much as I take in the appearance of my grandparents and the sight of them. And knowing Lilith's backstory, I have a decent feeling that she might not want to say much either, probably. So I'm just going to keep quiet and walk along with her, I guess.
Narroth and Iskrim?
What are the local customs around this time? This seems to be a big time of celebration for those who have passed. Is there some sort of gathering going on?
So most people have chosen to stay on the shore and look out towards the lake. It's hard to say if this is a normal custom, considering you just got done with a pretty violent battle.
Fair.
But melancholy, pensive would probably be the descriptors I would use.
Okay. In that case, Narroth would probably be sitting literally without moving in the last place that he was right after the conversation with his father, trying to absorb the words.
Cool. Iskrim?
Iskrim would actually look for Rachael and Benny and basically talk with them about who they petitioned for and just kind of share the general experience that he had with them, since they're the closest friends he's kind of got at the moment.
Cool. Rachael and Benny will relay that, one, they still haven't found the hairbrush, and two, they were looking to talk. Sorry, they were talking to their father. They each set out a lantern to basically have a moment with their father. The conversation details are probably going to be rather slim, as you get the sense that it's personal, but they'll freely talk about the father previously, he was some sort of teacher to them. They taught him the basics of fishing, fighting, that sort of thing.
Okay, and basically, I think he would be looking, maybe not for details, but just, were they satisfied or pleased with the encounter that they had?
There is a sense of sadness in their eyes as they say this, but they will tell you that it's always good to be reminded of where you come from. And they say that with fatigue, for sure, and melancholy.
Okay. You'll notice that Iskrim is not melancholy at all. Like, maybe a little pensive and thoughtful, but the fact that his father has passed on doesn't hurt like it seems to be hurting everyone else.
All right. What would you like to do from here?
After speaking with them, I would probably go back to the inn and go back to sleep.
Cool. Let's turn to Astor. There's not actually too much to do. The major work has been done before last rites are given. A lot of people have chosen to either return back to Vienna or to basically be lost in thought. So that is where you're at as far as being on the shore.
Gotcha. So what Astor is going to do then is, before he goes back to Vienna to, call it a night as well, he's going to walk along the shoreline for a little bit. He's going to look up at the moon, and can he see that there's a face on it, or does it just look normal at this point?
The moon looks normal at this point.
Okay, thank God. So anyways, he does that. Then he's probably going to kind of sit down, take a break somewhere on the shoreline where there aren't a lot of people. Probably pull out the lute and just kind of pensively play for a little while going over the encounters he just had. And then after about 10 minutes or so, he's probably just going to pack up, go back to the inn, and call it a night as well.
Cool. You mentioned before that you wanted to look for Bryn. Do you still want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. Does he find her, or?
Cool. So, we go into the city of Vienna, and Astor does a quick look around, and prior to how you experience Bryn, Bryn normally is found in nature, I would say. Maybe Danny can correct me on that, but you see her lying asleep on next to a tree. You see a lantern that is there, has not been put onto the water, has no signs of water damage or anything like that. There's also another metallic object on the floor, on the ground floor next to her. She seems to have been looking at these two objects before she fell asleep.
What does that metal object look like?
Yeah, so if you want to get closer, you'll notice that it is a compass.
Oh, okay. Interesting. What's the weather like at this point? Does it feel cool? Is it a little on the warmer side?
She would stay warm with her cloak. It is on the cooler side, but it's not freezing.
Does it look like she's comfortable, I guess?
I don't know. Danny?
When it's probably not a natural position that she's sitting in. We'll say that.
Okay, that's fair. So, anyways, Astor is going to actually go up to Bryn and kind of get on one knee and try to gently shake her awake.
You want to give me an intelligence check?
I don't know, do I?
Can you give me an intelligence check?
Yeah, hold on. That is way better than usual.
Compass doesn't appear to be pointing north.
Interesting. Okay, well, Astor's... Well, can I tell which way it's pointing?
A direction.
Wonderful. Anyways,
A direction that
Astor's
isn't
still
north.
gonna go in. He's still gonna go in.
It appears to be pointing forward. So if you were to think of where Bryn is sitting, if she held it in her hand and put it down, the arrow would be pointing directly in front of her
Interesting.
and not actual north.
Astor will make note of this, and he'll go into... Well, gently shake Bryn up. Wake up. Blah. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Hey, you doing alright?
I didn't mean to fall asleep.
Well, I can't say I blame you given how tired you seem to be. I kind of just didn't want to let you sleep out here all night, you know? Hope you don't mind me waking you up.
No. Not at all. Thanks.
Would you like me to help you get back to the inn, or...?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Alright, cool. Astor's going to help Bryn get up, and, he'll grab the compass and give the compass to Bryn, and he'll walk with the lantern.
Cool. So this is very important. When you pick up the compass, it kind of dials in a random direction and points in a different direction than where it was pointed before.
Bryn is going to close the compass as soon as she sees that it's in his possession and not hers.
Sorry. That does seem to be an interesting contraption, but I won't ask about it unless you want me to. Anyways, shall we go back to the inn?
Sure. Did you see who you wanted to see?
I did, actually. It was, well, one of them was rather pleasant, the other one was interesting.
Which one was pleasant?
Well, I spoke to my father. He's, just about how I remembered him, so it was kind of nice to see that. Told him all about how I have a kid now and all of that too, so it was nice.
Getting some fatherhood advice?
That too.
And
I mean, why reinvent the wheel, you know?
if it worked once before.
I would hope it's worked once before.
And the other one wasn't good?
It wasn't bad per se. I would actually say it was more good than anything else. He's, I guess I'd say he's one of the people who's affected me most recently. Kind of just wanted to talk to him a bit, see if he could, you know, give me a little more advice on what I'm trying to do. Kind of hard to really do that since I didn't have a lot of time to talk to him.
And who's that?
Well, I don't know if you know who he would be, but his name was Ryan the Aldwin, and he was one of what the people call the heroes of the Shadow Bell. He's the one who decided to die in our place by absorbing all the necrotic energy that came out of the Shadow Dragon who fought in the Shadow Bell. Wouldn't be alive if it weren't for him.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. She'll walk with him towards the inn, and kind of, I guess as the last part of this conversation, she'll say, Yaldwin, huh? You think he knows Yvette?
What about Yvette?
I think that's her name too.
You see Astor's face kind of just go blank for a few seconds. And then he goes, huh. I don't know. I will find out, I hope. Huh. And you kind of just see Astor go into a pensive mood.
That's all I got.
Well, Astor's just gonna say at this point, well, guess we should call it a night. We're all pretty worn out.
She'll open the door to their room since they're sharing one. Yep.
Oh, right. Astor goes in.
And you
I guess
guys
they'll
sleep
both
for
go to
the
bed. Yep.
Alright, cool. You guys get 8 hours of sleep, benefits of a short rest. At this point, you guys were up rather late. So you guys probably slept until like 9 or 10 in the morning or so.
Now, quick question, Chris, because I can never remember this. I get my spells back at the end of a short rest, correct? Because of the new rules?
No, you get your spells back at the end of a long rest.
Well, then I'm resting for 24 hours. I'm doing whatever I have to do to rest for 24 hours so I can get my spells back.
Alright, so Lilith is resting for 24 hours. What's everyone else gonna do?
Well, Astor's gonna go down for breakfast and kind of just see how everybody else is doing.
Bryn will join.
Iskrim will join.
Zarrius joins.
Okay. So,
Jeez.
Jesus Christ.
How about Narroth?
Narroth?
Narroth is not there.
Cool. So yeah, you four wake up. You guys get your oatmeal. And
Well,
you guys sit together.
Yeah,
Are we?
I would.
I would.
I would.
Cool. Then what Astor's going to say after a couple of bites of oatmeal, he'll say, so, did the rest of you guys get a good conversation with whoever you wish to speak to? If you don't mind me asking.
Iskrim will nod.
Who'd you talk to?
I spoke with my father.
So did Astor. What's up with all this daddy talk?
My father was a good man, and I wanted to see that he was okay.
And in my case, well, my mother is still alive, and I've seen her recently, I suppose. So my father is definitely someone I hadn't seen in a while.
And you? She turns to Zarrius. You talk to your dad too?
He ignores Bryn.
Ashley leans in towards Bryn and says, "Daddy issues."
Oh. Must be a tiefling thing.
Ashley kind of holds back a smirk of amusement. And then he says, well, I mean, I guess most of us got something decent out of it. Has anyone seen Narroth?
The last I saw of him was last night, as he was still sitting on the lake shore.
Is he gonna turn blue now or something?
Ugh.
Why would he turn blue?
I don't know. It's just I've been seeing all of these blue focus is the usual red that I'm used to, but don't worry about it. It was more of a joke.
Isgrim tugs at his beard and nods as if he got it, but not really.
Well, anyways, do you folks have any plans for today, or I know we should kind of see how things are going, given that we've had all of these, drums going off yesterday.
You see Zarrius raise his head a little bit as in to respond to your question. First, though, he looks to Bryn and says, I had a very respectful meeting with my grandparents.
Was it good?
It was. And then I turned to Astor and say, we have some business with the king and queen to attend to. We need to acquire some of the water from the lake as to accomplish our mission as to why we came here in the first place. So, I had asked the king and queen yesterday if that would be all right, and they were more than happy to oblige to do that today. Obviously not yesterday, due to the circumstances.
Cool. Well, if we're going to do that, I don't know, it might be better to have everyone there.
That's a good idea.
Well, I'll volunteer to go and find Narroth. Does anyone want to find the resident cleric?
Oh, get her.
Alright, go for it, Bryn. I'll go ahead and see if Narroth is still somewhere around the lake.
Yeah, okay. Narroth is going. It did blah blah. Ugh, words. Hi, John. What is Narroth doing?
Hi. Is there some sort of island on the lake or some sort of shallow point where Narroth could stand without drowning?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of shallow points. I think most prominently would be where Bryn bathes that one day.
Okay. That's probably where he'd end up, and you could see him. This is Astor coming, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Before we do that, did you stay there the whole night?
I did.
Something to note that when dawn rose about 5 o'clock-ish, you do notice that a few families came in and took their children to the lake. And all these children appear to be humans or elves. Once in a while you may see a halfling of some sort. And if you were to eavesdrop, you can hear something about like, are you sure you want to do this? This is always the choice. And they would say, the kids will say yes, generally excitingly is the atmosphere. They will take a boat out into the lake, and the kid would seem to go into the water and will stay there for probably an unhealthy amount of time. And a couple minutes later, they will arise as a freshwater genasi.
Oh.
What the hell?
And return back to shore. And, there's some celebration. Maybe there'd be like a picnic on the side, depending on the family. Some of them will go back to the city. And that happens specifically at dawn.
Okay. Narroth is going to basically be on the side looking curiously, and then he's going to see that the child has been under for way too long and looks nervously at the people on shore, who aren't freaking out and decide not to do anything. and, disturb this ritual, but he's going to be freaked out until he sees them come out as water genasi. No.
Okay, yeah, so that happens. And then we can do the scene with Astor now, if you would like.
Perfect. So Astor's going to see Narroth doing something he probably hasn't seen Narroth do in quite a while, which is practicing his fighting poses. So he's going to have his dagger out and go through his basically fighting a mock enemy that isn't there, working up a sweat. But you can see that he is incorporating some different things into his fighting style. Whereas before he would mix a swipe with a dagger with some sort of fire spell to keep the opponents off balance, you can see now he is using the water to his advantage, kicking up a splash and having that splash crystallize in midair. You can also see that when he is in a particularly focused part of his kind of battle meditation, which is what I'm calling this, you can see some water come up, freeze and crystallize into ice, and then start and basically burst into a blue flame. Just kind of staying as this semi-ice, semi-fire state. And you can see Narroth basically finish his pose and grin as he pants and probably is putting his hands on his knees after not having done this kind of battle in such a while.
Well, as you're finishing up, you do hear Astor kind of clapping as he's making his way over to you, and he said, "Well, it's been a while since I've seen that."
Narroth is going to turn over and nod. Yes, I haven't felt as free as I have now since, well, before the shadow fell.
I think you had a rather fruitful conversation with someone last night, then.
Yes, I'm sure most people were aware of who came to visit me.
That's probably true. Well, I am glad to hear that it was good for you.
Quite. I haven't really understood how much I have ran from that fiery dragon side since the shadow fell, how I retreated from my draconic side to my human side. But now, hearing all about my father, hearing that it wasn't even a conscious part of him that we destroyed that day, that I wasn't killing the last of my family, that there are more out there, it has become very freeing indeed.
Well, I'm quite glad for you on that regard.
And more than that, I have direction. I know now where the next phase of my path leads.
Oh, what might that be?
I was told of some islands to the north that I could find more of my kind there.
Oh, wow. More, you mean dragons?
Yes. My search, my futile quest of trying to get this information in books and reading has come to a better fruition than I could have hoped.
Well, that's great for you. I just hope that if we happen to go along with you, that they don't try to, bite us, I guess. I know dragons can be very powerful, as we've seen.
Well, that's going to be a risk I'm prepared to face.
And I applaud you and commend you for that.
Now, why are you here? Narroth kind of sighs heavily, and you can see his arms kind of go into a more relaxed position coming out of his fighting stance. You can even see him taking a seat, getting his robes completely wet into the lake itself as he basically sits in the lake.
Well, I came here because we were planning to go and meet with the king and queen to get the water that we needed for the lake. Just trying to see if we can get everyone together for it.
Narroth nods. If you need me with you, I will be by your side. Just let me know when that is.
Well, we're planning to go pretty soon, so you might have to dry yourself up a bit, but that's probably not an issue for you.
Narroth nods. Give me a second, I will come with you forthwith. You can see Narroth kind of taking water up from the lake, and a burst of flame runs across it. You can see it makes steam, and that steam kind of dries his clothes, makes him dry again. He walks out of the water.
As I thought. Also, if you ever feel like having a sparring partner, feel free to ask me. I promise I won't use any smashing magic on you, I suppose.
Narroth looks back. Well, I mean, if you don't want to, that's fine, but I might.
Astor kind of gets a mischievous grin on his face and he says, well, I guess we'll just have to see about that, right?
Narroth smiles and walks beside Astor as they, I'm guessing, head back to town.
Yep.
Cool. You jump in the teleportation circle and arrive on the outskirts of town. You walk in pretty easily. Iskrim and Zarrius, are you just waiting for Bryn?
Pretty much, Iskrim will definitely go to the stable, see to his horse, give it another brushing.
Serious?
Hold on one moment.
Bryn?
She's going up to Lilith's room.
Cool. You probably know where that is.
Yeah, and probably somewhere between a knock and a pound at the door.
Yes.
Lilith!
Yes, the door's open. You can come in.
Oh. She'll open the door. Hi, Lilith.
Hi.
You want some breakfast?
Sure. Did you bring some?
Yes. She runs downstairs really quick, gets some breakfast, and runs back up. Yes,
Thank you.
breakfast. Did you have a good night?
Yes, but I need some more recovery time. The last couple of days have been hard.
You're telling me. Did you get to talk to who you wanted to talk to?
Not everybody.
Not everyone.
No.
Well, who did you talk to?
My father.
Oh. Was that good?
It was as expected. He was as formal in death as he was in life.
I suppose that makes sense, though.
Yeah.
And what about the one you didn't talk to?
I don't know. I still have suspicions about that.
Who was it?
Have I ever told you the story of Roland?
Mm-mm. She sits down like cross-legged on the floor in front of wherever Lilith is.
So, Roland was a man that I met. He was traveling with a couple of interesting individuals. A half-elf and a Goliath. And I met them shortly after I had parted ways with my mentor. And it was when I had first struck out on my own. And we eventually became, I guess you would call us fortune seekers. And those, we would go from tomb to tomb or ruin to ruin and collect artifacts or other sort of, archaeological things so that I could sell them and make money. Because I was a merchant by trade, even though I was a cleric. Raised once a merchant, always a merchant, I guess. And so me and Roland ended up becoming very close. And we were engaged to be married. So we went home to tell my mother. When we were home, I got into an argument with the head of a rival family, a family that's been our rival in the Merchants Guild of Tyria for as long as I can remember, as long as my father can remember, probably as long as his father can remember. And Roland was killed, or so I thought. Things in the tower might have changed that. But that's who Roland was. Roland was the man that I was going to marry, that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. He was the love of my life, and he was taken from me one way or another. And I thought he would show up last night, but he didn't. So I don't know what that means.
Well, does that mean he's alive?
I don't know if that means that he was alive, or if his soul was captured, or if things weren't the way that I thought they were.
Bryn kind of looks down and twiddles her thumbs.
But that's something I'll have to figure out. But the talk with my father was nice.
Well, I'm happy that part was good. I'm sure if Roland is alive, we'll find him.
If he is alive, he's got a lot of explaining to do.
Well, I like to think that people who are meant to be together have a way of getting back together.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyways, let's finish up our breakfast, and then Zarrius and Astor wanted to talk with the king and queen about getting some of that water we're supposed to get.
Okay.
But in the meantime, why don't you tell me a little bit more about the happy times with Roland? And she'll just kind of like sit back and smile and listen to whatever stories Lilith shares.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just skip over that
We'll
part.
be here for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lilith, tell stories?
Yeah, Lilith will tell stories.
Yeah, so we'll say in like a half hour or so, they will go downstairs and rejoin Zarrius and Iskrim. Iskrim was taking care of Butterscotch, will also magically take a half hour, which will be the exact amount of time it takes for Narroth and Astor to come back. But what is Zarrius going to do in this half hour?
He would probably, seeing that everyone has gone off, go back up to his room and meditate for a little while until someone bugs him.
I can imagine that you can hear Lilith and Bryn his voice from the hallway as they leave the room and head downstairs.
Definitely hear Bryn's voice.
Okay, at that point, I'd probably finish up whatever I was doing move-wise and then make my way down to the meeting area.
Okay, so you go to the common room, I guess, and everyone will magically be there.
Real quick, Chris, what's considered light activity?
Yeah, so light activity is basically light activity means different things for different people. So what I'm thinking is things that don't cause extreme stress. For example, for Zarrius can walk into a library and find a nice relaxing day for 6-8 hours just reading books and doing research. If someone like Narroth goes into a library and tries to sit down for 8 hours and do research, probably not gonna be very restful for him.
There would be one less library, though.
There would be one less library, which will probably be restful for him.
So what would be light activity for Lilith?
I mean, you go about your day, you talk to people, you eat. It's really up for us to decide. Obviously, if you go into combat and do that, I mean, that breaks the rule.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But like going to talk to people, I wouldn't consider extremely heavy. It's just if you are packing your bags and trying to head somewhere, then you'll probably avoid that unless you're Bryn.
She doesn't have bags. She's got the stuff on her back.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I need to get a long rest in.
You're not the only one.
Miles and miles of walking is light activity for Bryn.
Yeah, so you can definitely go through these next few scenes. If I think that something is going to jeopardize that long rest, I'll gladly say something.
Okay.
Cool. You guys meet at the common room.
Are we ready to make our way over to the palace with the king and queen?
Yep.
Sure, let's do it.
I guess.
We have some business to take care of, Lilith. I think you would understand.
No, that's totally fine.
So we would head our way, make our way over towards where we know they're staying.
So the keep would probably do it.
Okay.
So perfect. So you guys travel a little bit. It's actually not terribly far from the inn you're staying. You head there. You are recognized mostly because of how odd your party is and your participation the night prior. and you're quickly taken into the throne room. The king and queen are not quite there yet, but after a few minutes, the door opens and they enter, no longer wearing their combat gear, but something more fitting for the occasion. We're thinking like a tunic that's filled with royal colors, an assortment of jewelry on their hands, a cape that has the crest on the back, stuff like that. And they take their seats, and they Harold comes up to the party and goes, hey, what do I call you guys?
The Black Company. No, wait.
Oh.
No.
Really?
No.
That's your one.
I looked to the party like with a clueless look on my face.
I mean, some of us used to be called Heroes of the Shadow, but
That's
that's only
some of
part of
us.
the group.
I mean, that's
The
only
crier looks at you confused, like, what do I call you?
the Lycan's
We-
Howl.
We've never actually came up with a name for our band, I guess. We don't.
What?
Iskrim looks at him and goes, "What is wrong with our real names? What do you mean, what do you call us?"
Normally a group of people who travel together has like a name that they go by. You guys must have some prestige. You must have come up with the name sometime.
No, we really didn't.
Okay, so come up with something now. Go.
How about the Excelsior 6?
Well, I mean,
One of
Iskrim
us
isn't
isn't-
from Excelsior.
Yeah.
I know, but... Okay, the Excelsior 5 plus the Dwarf. Sorry.
Well, that's not very nice.
Wow. That's not gonna work. I'm sorry.
I would like to include everyone in this
That was my one.
name.
Okay.
Well, coming up with the name is certainly quite difficult.
What about the Lycan's Howl?
Why would we call ourselves that?
Well, we work for Randall Lycan, and we're here as a cry for help. Like a wolf
Yeah,
cries
but-
in the night.
Isn't he really named Mild Miles?
Well, yeah, but that's what people know him as all over the place.
Plus,
Randall
this
Lycan.
sounds better than the mild 6.
That is better than the mild sick.
You know what? I would actually second that name. I quite like it. That is our current mission, so I think it reflects us quite well. Even if one of our own, and Astor indicates towards Iskrim, eventually decides to leave because his goals differ at some point, it's a good way of declaring our intentions as we make our way through this country.
I look to the guy with a shrug on his shoulders and just say whatever she said.
Well, is everybody else fine with it first?
One name is as good as another.
Guess.
Narroth looks over to the page. You have the name.
He kind of like looks confused and sort of sighs for a second, regains his composure and goes, "King and Queen, we present you Lycan's Howl. They are here to petition for some help on behalf of their continent Excelsior and they need something from Lake Lackerum. They will now present their case."
Narroth looks over to the page and hisses, "The Lycan's Howl! The Lycan's Howl!"
Use your articles.
Astor face
Here.
palms.
I'll write it down for him.
Well-
She'll go over next to the page and write it down.
decorum.
Please welcome the Lycan's Hell.
You just see Astor kind of like put his hand up to his mouth and just stifling a little laughter.
Bryn gives like a thumbs up to the. You did it.
Narroth kind of indicates to the party, and they walk up and bow as per the usual manner in Excelsior.
At ease, we talked a little bit to you. I don't know if I caught your name actually, but he indicates towards Zarrius.
Yes, my name is Zarrius, servant of Obad-hai.
All right. We talked a little bit about getting water from the lake. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what's going on? We're more than willing to accommodate. We just need to make sure that your purpose is something that we could back.
Yes, so our mission here is to prevent the wounded king from doing any more damage than he already has done. The wounded king has escaped his prison, which was due to us and one of our old party members. He let the wounded king escape, and we ended up letting him go by accident. This party member was spellbent on making sure he escaped. We did our best to try and contain him. We were unsuccessful, and now he is torturing our home continent of Excelsior. He has psychologically affected us to the point where people are kind of losing their minds. We have heard that the water of your Lake Lacarum might contain some alchemical ingredients that might help us in preventing some of our people from going crazy, essentially.
And who told you this?
Pause.
Pause.
Cuckoo clock. The man who sent us, Randall Lycan, was the one that mentioned this, and it was one of our missions when coming to this city was to obtain some of this.
Yes, Randall Lycan, I know of him.
Yes, so he was hoping that we would be able to get some so that we might be able to cure the effects of the wounded king.
Oh, we'll gladly do a favor for Randall.
Well, thank you very much.
We can send someone up there and grab a couple of gallons worth.
We are most grateful for you allowing us to do this.
Of course, and we're appreciative of your work that you have done the previous night.
Are you guys going to be able to pick up the pieces from the wreckage of last night?
Well, primarily we had to figure out the cause, but we didn't lose too many people. So we can figure out where the cause was, we can regroup and handle the problem.
I turn to Astor at this point, and say, do they like kind of whisper to Astor, and maybe the party will overhear this. But so do they not know of Adam? Because I'm pretty sure he was the cause of all this.
Astor whispers back, and he said, "I did make mention of the name, but they seem to not. It didn't seem to ring a bell."
I see. And how would you describe this? The way he fights.
Psychological warfare.
Zarrius kind of looks at you confused, like, huh? Like, what does that mean? And I kind of gesture Astor to speak on my behalf.
Okay. At this point, Astor is just gonna take a step forward, and then he's going to say, "Well, if you would allow me to speak on behalf of Zarrius, Your Majesties, we as a group tend to come across rather unusual situations, if you don't mind me kind of paraphrasing it a little bit. But we have a bit of a suspicion as to what may be causing this issue, though it is rather difficult to explain it in terms that someone who hasn't experienced what we had would understand. So, I believe you may remember this, but last night I asked you about whether or not the name Adam rang a bell for both of you, and you seemed to indicate that no, it did not. The reason I had asked that is because this particular being seems to be, that's part of our suspicion, seems to be the likely cause of this issue. It has powers that are rather unheard of, and seeing this army of undead, I suppose, rise, as well as your legendary hero Conrad being our adversary last night, kind of points strongly in the direction of someone that tried to antagonize us about 2 nights ago. It's like I said, it is something rather difficult to describe, but I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I'd be, quite frankly, if you were to allow me, I'd be rather interested in seeing if I could help with this situation a bit.
So you had a dream, and you think that dream had something to do with what happened?
Possibly, yes. I mean, we've been to the Feywild. Well, some of us, we've been to the Feywild. We've been to the Shadowfell. We've been up by the moon incorporeally. It sounds insane, I'm sure, but I can't say anything else aside from that.
What we may be dealing with, for example, the fight last night, what seemed to happen was that this superficial being, he was able to control the mind of that man that was in the middle of the sea, and he was able to give that man powers that he wasn't able to experience before, and that is what caused the whole ordeal last night.
Also, it's rather difficult to have 6 completely different individuals such as ourselves, Astor indicates towards the party, for all 6 of us to have the exact same experience.
What concerns me is that you 6 came into town, had the same experience, and then this happened.
Well, I know you have nothing but our word to go on as far as this goes, but as far as we know, we hope we did not cause this, but I do, with your permission, of course, I would like to propose, should the rest of my group be okay with this, that we go and see if we can help remedy the situation, because if it is our fault, well, frankly, I would not want to walk away without doing something first.
I don't think you are at fault, but you may be the reason.
All the same, I personally would love to just offer my services.
And what do you plan to do?
Well, so there's fighting going down towards... out of character. What direction did that seem to come from?
The what?
Like when we heard the war horns going off and like people, running off to do battle.
That came from the city. The city was mobilizing.
And which way were they going?
South to the lake to fight the undead.
Okay. Sorry, that slipped my mind. As far as what we would do, that is a good question. My apologies for not having a concrete answer, but I mean, I'm sure that I and my friends behind me would be interested in trying to figure it out. Unless you have any ideas yourself, I mean.
No, this is the first I'm hearing of this.
Well, I guess one thing that could happen is if we are the reason, so long as we leave, the problem follows us.
It's a theory, nonetheless.
Well, in that case, I think that might be what we should do.
Well, House Steiner doesn't back away from the fight, but we're also not going to jump forward towards one as well. Let us get the water for you. Why don't you take another day and leave on tomorrow? We'll even provide some mounts for you if you need them.
That would be most appreciated. If I may request possibly one more thing. Do you have anything like, what would we call these? A scroll of sending? One or two of those? The reason I'm asking is just in case, that way we can kind of follow up a couple of days out of the city to see if you're still having an undead problem or if after we left there's just nothing going on. Because
Lilith speaks up and says, I can handle that. I know that particular magic.
Oh, Astor turns towards Lilith and then he says, well, it's good to know that you're capable of using it, but if possible, I would rather you, conserve some of your magical powers for something else if they can help us with the scroll of sending. I don't doubt your ability, but it's just kind of cautionary.
We don't have one, but I'm sure you can purchase one if you would like.
I'll look into that then. Who would you rather that we contact for an update like that?
You can contact the head of our guard. He'll be able to handle the situation faster than we could. If there are, I guess I should say, he would know better about our defenses than we would.
That makes perfect sense. I suppose what would be a prerequisite for this then is that we meet him, speak to him a little bit, and that will allow us to have our contact because the way I understand the spell works is it has to be somebody we know.
All right. That can be arranged.
Wonderful. Is there anything else we need to speak of, or have we tied up all the loose ends?
I think we've exhausted the purpose of this meeting, but you do have our thanks and our appreciation, and please bring the undead somewhere else.
Astor chuckles and he says, well, we'll do the best we can on that point, but we highly appreciate your willingness to meet with us and also to go along with our request. And at this point, Astor gives a respectful bow towards the king and queen.
And I would say we all try and give a respectful bow to the king and queen, and hopefully the page sends us in the direction of the guard.
Yeah, so we can montage that. You guys meet this guard. He will be a fire genasi. I will come up with a name with him during the break, and we will handle that another time.
Bryn will scream at the end of the conversation, but you do back up your actions. And then kind of realize...
God damn it!
But I
Narroth is going to stay a little longer after the rest kind of filter out for one last thing.
What are you trying to do?
Narroth is going to address the king and queen. Narroth will look up to them. One last thing. Do you happen to have anything here that can remove the negative effects of some vile magic? We have something here that belonged to the nation next door that we would like to destroy.
Depends on how powerful the enchantment is.
Narroth would grab a piece of cloth, pick up the baby killing sword from the previous king, and offer it up. The sword was taken from the previous king of the town next over, and he nods in the direction of the town. Would you be able to reverse the curse of this sword or destroy it?
If this sword is cursed, I have no desire to touch it. And I don't know if we have a scroll that's powerful enough to curse or to cure a major curse.
Narroth will nod. Thank you very much for your time, and put it back in his pack.
You can again check the stores. Maybe they have something. Something like that will be very expensive.
Okay. Narroth will bow and leave with the others, trying to catch up. Wondering why someone gave Dav a lime.
Real quick, Chris, do I know, am I able to create scrolls?
Yeah, technically, if you want to take the time to do that.
How long would it take?
It would take an hour per spell level.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you can do it during the day sometime if you'd like. It would also require a certain amount of material components, but it's cheaper.
I have the money.
So, yeah, you can do that.
That's something Astor didn't think of.
Also, as we're leaving the place, I take Astor aside and say, I believe I can make the scroll if we want to hunt down the components for me to make a scroll of sending. That way we have one available.
Oh, so you can do that. Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, just tell me what it is we need, and I'd gladly help you out.
Chris,
Sorry, repeat that.
we need to know what we need.
So you need like certain types of parchment. You need certain types of ink. The ink is probably the most expensive aspect of that.
Okay, so I turn to the rest of the party and I say, me and Astor are going on a mission. We will meet you guys at the inn later.
Sounds
Narroth is going to nod. I too have business to attend to. I assume we'll all meet up at the inn at nightfall.
that sounds good.
Sure.
Iskrim nods.
Okay.
And we're going to, at this point, fade to black, take a quick break, and return in about 10 minutes.
Alrighty, we're going
Sounds like a
on
plan.
a quick break, and we will be back in just a few. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to more Low Rollers Live. Chris, why don't you take it away after our break?
Perfect. So we have a couple of smaller things we need to set up for the day. From a meta perspective, you will get the water. Someone will probably deliver it to somebody at the end, and you can pick it up there. It is in what I imagine is like a 5-gallon Sparklets bottle. Is how I'm picturing it. With a cork in it, which you guys can easily do that. They do say that you can stop by the keep on the next morning and pick up some mounts if you so choose to. But there's a couple loose ends we want to fill up in this city. Also, the name for this captain of the guard is going to be Milix Drayden. I'll type the name in the chat. So remember that name, and I will attempt to remember to write it down.
Real quick, does Narroth want to store the water in his bag of holding, or do you want me to store it in the cart? Does I have a magical cart?
I think, especially because it's water, I'd feel more comfortable with in a magical shrinking cart that, you know, has a more likelihood to stay somewhat upright instead of my bag that's just all kind of everything's heaped together.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. So you guys have the day to do quote-unquote light activity. We're going to montage this, try to get through this pretty quickly because I hate spending the day in the magic shop. So go ahead and tell me what you want to do. Anyone, go for it. Just
okay.
You know.
First off, me and Astor want to find the components to make a scroll of sending.
Sure. You can make a scroll. It's going to cost quite a bit of money.
Okay.
Basically, you need magic residuum mixed in with certain types of ink. It is going to cost you about $550 to purchase the materials for that.
Okay. So I want to offer him in trade. I want to see if he'll be willing to trade some rare silks from Excelsior for the magical ink. This is very rare silks, desert silk.
How many units of that do you have?
I have 12.
So he's going to take a look at the silk and kind of, feel the quality, put it on, do that. It's like, it's kind of warm, or the weather is not warm enough for something like this. It won't protect us very well.
Okay.
I mean, we can buy it, but I don't know if it's as worth as much here as, let's say, anywhere warmer.
Okay. So this is a magical shop, and I'm sure that you do enchanting of your own. How about some masterwork weapons of dwarven make, but dwarves of Excelsior? These were made in the halls of Moradin himself.
What do you have as far as, what are you trying to sell him exactly?
I have 4 units of dwarven weapons. That's exactly what you told me to write down.
Perfect. It's like, for this, we can give you maybe 150 gold per unit, which will cover the processing ink.
Okay. You got yourself a trade.
nods, and he kind of greedily pulls the dwarven weaponry there, and he seems to like look at his sword, stare at it, kind of looks around, and then he kind of replaces that sword with the one that's on his suit currently. Because it's like, cool, here's the ink you require, and it's a very good trade. It's very interesting weaponry. I haven't seen these gems inside the hilts before. It will be a must-have among practical men and noblemen alike.
And if I remember correctly, I was told by the dwarf that I bought these off of that the gems are very easily enchanted.
His eyes sparkles like, we will definitely play with that a little more. See what we can do with these weapons. Thank you. You need anything else here today?
Yes, I was actually looking for, do you have some, I don't know how to explain this. I'm looking for a, shoot, I don't know how to explain this. I basically want a wand of cure wounds, so that I don't have to spend as many spell slots to heal.
Not going to have that. Wands don't normally carry divine magic.
Okay, how about rods?
Probably not going to find that either. I'm sorry.
Okay. Does he have potions of healing?
Yeah, you can buy potions of healing.
Okay, how many does he have? And of what kinds?
He probably has more than you can afford, so go ahead and just tell me what you want to do.
I was thinking like 2 potions per person, maybe 1 step above a regular healing potion.
So that's 6 times 12 times 200. 2,400 gold for 12 of them.
Okay. And again, I would like to trade. I have this magical flute from a place called Simden. When I bought this flute, it was told to me that this flute. I don't exactly remember what you told me, Chris. I think it's the one from the regular DMG.
I believe so.
And I paid roughly about what you were saying that these potions are worth. So it would be a fair trade.
He looks at it, picks it up. You see his hand sort of glow. Detect magic spell. Yes, it's good, but we don't. This would be hard to sell in this very martial society. You have anything to sweeten the deal?
How about this? You double what you have there, and I'll throw in this beautiful set of masterwork plate armor. And I pull out just the breastplate of the plate armor. But you have to double what you have there.
Go ahead and roll.
Okay. Damn.
I will give you 12 of these lesser potions, 12 of these minor potions, and we'll call it a deal.
Plus the potions that are already on the table.
That includes the potions on the table, which would be 12, correct?
Right. 12 of the one step above the regular healing potions.
Right, so 12 lesser is what you asked for. And then 12 minor is the regular healing potion. He's ripping you off, I'll tell you that right now.
Okay. No, I don't think. I think that's just a little too rich for my blood. So I'll just You know what? I'll pass. But I appreciate you taking the time to make the deal with me on the weapons and the ink.
All right, man. Always in business.
If Lilith looks around, she can see that Astor has a blank look on his face.
And as we walk out, I go to Astor. I go, "Oh yeah, I forgot I have this magical flute. It might help you."
What does it do?
God, ask me later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a caveat. If I give you this flute, you gotta convince Narroth to let me get those winged boots.
Sure, I'll talk to him about it.
Okay.
So, sorry, what kind of flute is it again? Though I can write it down.
Ask me later.
Oh, okay. I'll remember.
I'll look it up and I'll send it to him.
Cool.
Send it to me
Thank you.
too.
Okay.
Perfect. Moving on. Anything else?
I mean, Astor doesn't know exactly what he needs, so it's all on Lilith.
No,
Moving
we're
on.
good. We're going back to the inn to make a scroll of sending.
Perfect. Serious.
Yes.
What would you like to do? You have the day.
I would like to do some meditation, as well as maybe talk with Obad-hai, as well as potentially go to the library, do some reading and research.
What are you looking to read?
I'm trying to see if there's any sort of books on psychological.
Psychological warfare.
No, not
Oh,
psychological warfare, but anything that has to do with the mind and maybe like fighting. So not technically psychological warfare, but
I'd imagine
Kind
there'd
of.
actually be something here that may pick something up like that. So my first thought was a book on sort of like feinting in combat, if you understand what that is. Basically pretending you're going to hit somewhere and then hit somewhere else on the body to try to create an opening.
uh-huh.
It's probably a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. So playing with someone's mind and then getting a better shot off at them.
Yeah, so it's like misdirecting would be the best way to say it.
Okay. And is there anything that I would be able to find that would involve any sort of books on the Wounded King or other godlike figures?
I mean, you can find books on the 20 deities that we have that you're aware of in the pantheon. I guess I can copy and paste my list real quick into the chat. But nothing on the Wounded King, nothing on Adam.
Okay. I guess I would go and try and read that information that you had mentioned before about the fainting.
Cool. I don't think that you would be able to reach Obad-hai based on what I have going on in the Astral Sea. Not at this point, at least.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So these are the
just a
20
few.
deities. Just a few. That's your day. Iskram? This is your time to ask if you want a scene with another player as well.
Gotcha. Iskrim is pretty much the, he's doesn't really seek out too many of everybody else unless they find him. So at the moment, during his day off, Iskrim is going to go outside and find a nice tree and sit under the shade of it. He's going to sit down in the grass. He's going to go ahead and oil the metal of his pickaxe. He's going to condition the leather around the handle. He's actually going to take some time and lacquer the wood in his shield, oil the metal in it. He's going to inspect the leather straps that would hold the shield to his arm, make sure that they're doing well, and condition them. He's just kind of slowly taking his time doing his equipment maintenance. When he finishes that, he goes to the stable, and he goes ahead and gets Butterscotch out and just kind of rides Butterscotch very gently around town, and then takes him back and puts him away, feeds him his hay and alfalfa. And near the end of the day, he's going to go ahead and kind of clean his armor, which doesn't really take much because it's mostly fur, so there's not much you can do there. And he's going to change out of the suit of clothes that he purchased for the festival that he also wore in front of the king and queen, and he's going to put on his regular traveling clothes that he normally wears under his armor. He'll fold the suit of clothes away and put them in one of his saddlebags. At some point in time during the day, he went ahead and sat down in the inn and had a nice lunch of meat, cheese, and bread, a piece of fruit, and one hearty beer, and just kind of studied the people that came and went, and just kind of sat in silence.
Bryn.
Find Narroth.
Okay. Narroth, what are you doing?
What time of day is it?
It's the day.
It's the day. You probably see Narroth wandering around the town.
You find Narroth.
Narroth?
Narroth looks over and sees Bryn. Hello?
You know we're not done, right?
Oh, I am very sure of that.
Don't worry, I'm not angry with you anymore.
Oh? What changed?
You know what? That's a good question.
Narroth immediately regrets asking this question.
I hope you understand why I was mad in the first place.
Narroth nods. I can sympathize. I still can't agree.
That's fine. I don't think we're ever going to agree on everything.
Narroth raises an eyebrow. So what would you like to talk about then?
Well, I did have one question.
Narroth nods and waits quietly.
That wing thing you do.
Yes,
What exactly is that?
it is a spell. I am able to cast it in order so that whoever receives this can grow wings in order to either escape or find a better altitude.
Huh. Is that a common thing?
I have not met anyone else who has done this before, and I seriously doubt anyone else's spell would manifest in the same way, what with the dragon wings and all.
You mean anyone like you? Because mine don't
I've
look
not
like
met-
yours.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose it's different based on the person's original skill composition. However, because of my personal experience with flying, I would assume mine acts differently. I don't merely float in the air. I actually change what it is to be me and grow wings. I doubt anyone else's would manifest in the same way if they tried that spell.
Huh.
Narroth just waits, looking at Bryn.
Bryn is just kind of walking beside him with her chin in her fingers, just thinking. Her brow kind of furrows as she continues to walk. But that's not possible.
Narroth looks towards Bryn again. Oh?
Well, you're not the first time I've experienced this.
No, the first time you experienced that was with Astor's wife.
Fiance.
Yeah.
How do you know
Currently.
that?
Oh, little one, Narroth is gonna laugh and smile. I've been watching out for you for a long time.
She kind of glares at him a bit. What does that mean?
Our experience in the tower had different relationships with time than what most people currently experience. Most people go through time. Most people go through time in this linear fashion. They walk through it. In the tower, time bended and shifted so you could easily make a shortcut between the present and the past and the future. In the tower, I saw you. In the tower, I was able to use my magic through the temporal stuff inside that tower and aid in your escape.
Bryn kind of looks for it again, and her eyebrows furrow again as she kind of looks off into the distance. Why?
Well, it was as a favor to Astor. He wanted to save his wife. I
Fiancé.
wanted to save the one who was willing to sacrifice herself for her.
Huh. So you do get it. Or you did get it.
Get what?
Saving people in the now, even if it won't help your future.
I've always got that.
And yet you didn't do it in our nightmare.
I saved you in a different way. In a more permanent way. In a more real way. I could not save you but inside the fantasy, not with those creatures coming at us. So I surpassed the fantasy and saved you in reality. Even when you refused to wake from your sleep, I came back in to get you out.
Yeah, but you didn't help me in the meantime.
No, I had an option. Either I could save you by exiting the dream, or I could try to destroy things in the dream. I chose the way that would give us the biggest advantage.
That you thought would give us the biggest advantage.
That ended up giving us the biggest advantage.
That you didn't know would give us the biggest advantage.
I had a theory. I tested it and was correct. If I had been incorrect, I would have, of course, joined the fight.
Next time, just join the fight in the meantime. And follow your theory.
Unfortunately, in that situation, trying to meditate, trying to free my mind of the here and now would be very difficult to do while fighting the here and now.
We both know you had the time to do it, though.
Do we?
Oh, yeah.
To get enraged, to unleash my magic, requires me to be emotional in some way. It requires some sort of emotional response. Trying to clear my mind of that emotion. That is not something I can do while using that emotion.
Really?
Narroth nods. That is what I've been trying to accomplish. Clearing myself of emotion and mastering myself rather than being mastered by myself.
Bryn will... As she's talking, her left hand will draw her pistol and spin it in front of her. Almost as if her hand has a mind of its own, while she is continuing to communicate with Narroth. And she goes, well, you see, it's about repetition.
Narroth nods. Why do you think I meditate whenever I can? Why do you think I train and practice whenever I can? Mastering myself is my goal. However, there are some times when I do not meet my goal. I become overwhelmed by one passion or another, by a calmness or an anger that burns inside me. I cannot maintain that kind of emotion while trying to free myself of emotion. Not yet.
You see, as the gun spins, the chamber actually unlocks, and with each rotation, a new bullet pops out, which she catches with her other hand. What would bring you back then from the emotions?
Well, at the time, I was preparing to battle just as you were. I concentrated on letting my emotions take a back seat to a more rational mind. I, in that instance, was able to think through the scenario. That's when I theorized that we could simply wake up if we tried. That we did not have to be part of this test.
Once all 6 bullets are out, she, with a flick of her wrist, slams the chamber back in, spins it back a few more times, and holsters it. No, but I mean, once you're already caught in your emotions, what will bring you back?
Narroth looks to her and kind of thinks for a second, looks over. Well, usually, I mean, when I started, it would end with someone's burning corpse, with there being no more reason to get out of that primal state. But now, I am learning more control, to pull myself out. Discipline and control are what will work best for me.
Okay. I'm not going to pretend to know how you do your magic or what you require to do it. I know me and my gun are so familiar with each other that it barely takes a thought for me to use it.
Oh, it used to be like that for me. Unfortunately, I have to think more now, instead of less. Not thinking is how I spent most of my youth, raging and burning things indiscriminately.
Well, I certainly don't want that. But how about this? If you need to worry about tomorrow, and I need to worry about today, why don't we keep each other in check?
Narroth looks over. How so?
Well, if I'm getting too caught up in the moment, you can do what you need to do to get me out of it. And if you get too caught up future-proofing, then I'll do what I need to get you back in the moment.
Narroth nods. And what would I possibly do to get you out of the moment that would not have me on the receiving end of one of those bullets there? Narroth kind of points down to where she pocketed the bullets.
I'm not going to shoot you.
Narroth raises an eyebrow. Really?
Why would I
If
shoot
I
you?
stop you in the middle of your in the middle of one of your rampages?
Out of anybody that I would shoot, it would not be one of you.
Narroth nods. Then you already have more control than I did when I started.
Well, that's relieving, I guess.
Astor definitely got to see me adapt to this new, to my changing self.
But, I mean, what do you think?
Narroth nods and looks over. I think that would be wise, keeping each other in check.
She extends her hand.
Narroth would grab it not as a handshake, but instead grab her wrist and shake that way.
She'll follow suit. Okay. Now what are we doing for the rest of our day?
Are you joining me then?
I gotta make sure you're not future-proofing too much, right? She'll give him a wink.
Narroth will bark out a small laugh and nod. All right, in that case, we're going in this direction. And Narroth is going to be, at this point, walking over to one of the magic shops first.
All right, let's montage this. What do you want to do?
Narroth is going to see, he has 4 rings that the king was wearing. He's going to see if any of them contain some sort of enchantment or magic that alter them from the norm.
Okay, normally, because this is effectively an identify spell, normally that does cost some gold.
That's fine.
I believe I have it written at 50 gold every casting.
Okay, Narroth can cover that.
So, dang it, I haven't looked at these notes in a while. Give me a second. Why don't we deal with this outside of stream?
Perfect. Narroth is going to go from there to some sort of temple or community gathering where Genasi would gather.
It's not really a specific Genasi specific gathering area.
Okay. Are any of the shopkeepers that I've dealt with so far some sort of Genasi? I know that the silk worker was.
Silk worker was a water Genasi. I don't know if you actually dealt with any other shop owners besides the magic shop, which would have been a tiefling if I remember my notes correctly.
And the tavern?
Tavern was run by a fire Genasi, I believe. Or at least a
Okay.
receptionist.
I think I bugged the water Genasi enough, especially because I'm not paying for anything more. I'm probably going to go back to the inn and see if I can get the attention of someone who, works there and would have the time to give me some information.
So, what are you trying to find out?
I'm trying to learn a little bit more about the water Genasi ritual that I witnessed earlier and how each different type of Genasi picks or is chosen for the different element abilities.
I have music coming from somewhere. It's driving me nuts. Okay. Finding out how Genasi gets chosen for something.
How the people choose which Genasi they want to be.
Oh, okay. So that is a family / personal choice on behalf of the kids. All of these kids seem to be teenagers, so old enough for them to sort of make that decision on their own. And if they choose to be water Genasi, they go to Lake Lacarum. Most common way to do that is at the Festival of Returning Light. If you want to be a fire Genasi, you go to the Fire Islands during the summer solstice. And if you want to be a tiefling, that's generally the least popular choice because it does require a deal with the devil. So most of people go for Genasi. And if they go for tiefling, it's not for any public reasons.
Okay, you mentioned water Genasi and fire Genasi. What about the other two?
There are of these 2 Genasi on this continent.
Okay. I'm also wondering what is required other than taking a dip in a lake.
Sorry?
I'm also wondering what is required in this other than a dip in the lake.
It's communing with the place of power.
I see. Basically, wanting it and being in a place of power will make it so.
Specific places for specific things. So if you were trying to be a water Genasi in a volcano, probably not going to happen.
I see. And if they know why it works how it works, other than how to do it? What's the philosophy behind it?
It's more tradition than anything else. If we look at the Legend of Conrad, the Legend of Conrad basically had Conrad taking the volcanoes out of Lake Lacarum and placing it into the Fire Islands, basically creating two places of power, and mythos at the very least. So at that point, Water Genasi and Fire Genasi seemingly started to come out of these areas. People started communing with these places of power, and then it sort of became ingrained in the culture.
I see. So they don't know why; they just know that it happens.
Correct. They know that it has to do with connecting with the elemental planes.
Ah, okay. This is something Narroth hasn't really heard much of before. Would you be able to get? Would they know any more information about the elemental planes?
That's something I can give you at another time.
Okay, cool. That's basically the line of questioning that he's going to be going through.
Sure. Does that cover everyone? Did I miss anyone? Perfect. So are we cool to wrap up the day here and then start off the next morning?
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
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 Okay. So we wake up the next morning. You gain the benefits of a full night's rest. So you gain half your hit dice. Everything comes back, etc., etc.
Cool.
How do you want to basically approach leaving? I'm assuming you guys are donning your proper traveling gear, all the random stuff.
Yep.
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 All the normal
Let,
stuff.
let me put it this way. I can either take over the narrative and I'll have you guys flying out into the sunset, or if you guys want to do some last minute scenes, then now would be the time.
Well, one thing we should work out, are we going to buy horses? Are we going to go get horses for the king because he offered mounts? Are we going to use mounts on the cart? How are we going to travel?
These boots were made for walking. That's my one.
I'm guessing we're going to take the king's offer up on the mounts that they're giving to us for free. And we can pretty much kind of caravan it with your cart if you really want to.
Oh, we don't need to. My cart fits in my pocket, so if we're going to ride horses, we can just ride horses.
Probably riding horses would do. Narroth looks especially awkward riding a horse.
Bryn probably just walks.
Well, before Astor gets on the horse, he's going to.
We're not on the horse yet. We're still at the end.
Well, this will be for later then.
Okay. Any more scenes?
I did want to work out with this. This can be out of character. Are we going to trade the? Are we going to Astor get the flute and I get the boots of flying?
Yeah, that hasn't been done yet.
Narroth has the boots, I believe.
That he does.
That I do.
I mean, at some point before we go and get our mounts, I suppose Astor is going to speak to Narroth.
Okay. It's the morning, so he's probably doing one of those battle meditation things you saw earlier in the lake again.
Okay. Well, Astor will approach you and he'll watch silently until you either finish or you notice that he's there.
He's probably going to notice halfway through and look over. Without stopping, he's just going to say, yeah, what's up?
Hey, Narroth. So, well, good morning, first of all. But do you still have some of those items that Miles gave us a little while ago?
Narroth looks over. Of course. Need one?
I don't per se, but it seems like Lilith feels the winged boots might be helpful for what she wants to be able to do. Would you have anything against letting her use those?
Narroth looks to Astor. Well, if you agree, then go ahead and take them.
Thanks, I appreciate it, but just so that you know, she's the one who asked me to talk to you. I guess she might still be feeling a little awkward, but she did give me this. Astor's going to pull out the flute that Lilith gave him earlier. I'll see if I can learn how to play it well, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Narroth looks over. Looks like fun, I guess. I don't know. I don't really care for instruments. A bit too fragile for me.
No, that's okay. I just wanted you to know that I was doing her a favor because she did me a favor, just so that we're all on the same page.
No offense. I just really don't care. It's an item that was given for the party. It's the party's.
All right. Either way, just so you know. I'll leave you to it unless you want me to spar with you for a little bit.
Narroth looks over and smiles. Yeah, let's see what you can do when you're not, learning to play that flute.
Well, I think Dav's busy stuffing her face with some kind of fruit, but I'll join you with this Dow that I have on my side.
Narroth smiles and laughs. Yeah, I wouldn't want to hurt the goddess's feelings.
Careful.
And they spar.
Yep.
Cool. Insane. Anything else?
Well, Asher will give Lilith the boots at some point.
Not from me.
Cool.
No, we're good.
And they're just the winged boots, Chris?
Whatever the DMG says on it.
Okay.
Winged boots, yes.
I think you can only fly for a certain amount of time each day or something like that. But anyway, we will expend that. Heading to the keep. You guys need to do anything else?
Nah.
Nope.
Alright, so you head to the keep and you stop by the stables where you're going to pick up the mounts, and you don't hear the sound of horses, which is very intriguing, but a man, Fire Genasi, walks up and goes, "Hey, how can I help you?"
Yes, we had word from the king and queen to come down here to procure mounts for our departure.
Yes, I believe I have you down for 6 if you are the people I think you are.
I look over at Iskrim and I thumbs up, thumbs down, question mark.
Yeah, get 6 because we should use a pack horse. Just in case we need a pack horse.
Yes, 6 indeed. I say that to the guy.
Yeah, perfect. Why don't you give me a little bit of time? Do you guys need mounts and some feed as well?
That would be most excellent.
So over the course of the next few minutes, he begins to pull out these mounts. These mounts are not horses. They can be described as yellow flightless birds, officially mounted and ready to go.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Why?
Really?
Because Chris really wants to see us write these things.
That's my one.
That's fair. I'm okay with this. So, what's the temperament of these individual birds?
So these ones are well trained. They seem to follow. You have to sort of get a feel for them, like you would any sort of mount. But you can ride them pretty easy. They're trained, so as long as you're not being aggressive towards them, you should be in good shape.
Cool.
Do they have names?
We don't name our pets. Do you? Just royal mounts. I don't.
I see. We tend to, from our home continent at times. Certain people groups do that. But we greatly appreciate...
I think we named a cat once.
We greatly
But
appreciate...
it wasn't a very appropriate word.
Now I'm curious.
Oh, we'll leave it at that.
By the way, out of character real quick, have we already spoken to Milik Straden? I completely forgot.
Yes, we montaged it.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. I guess it just slipped past my attention.
Okay, so we have our birds, and now we're ready to leave town.
As you begin to head out of town, you are stopped by a courier. The courier hands Zarrius a note.
I will read it.
This is from the Flaming Furnace Trio. He says, "We wish you well. We left early the day before. We want to return back to Lynn's to see if we can. Well, we think it's time to go see our mother again, but we are heading that way. If you're trying to go see the house of Lady Suliana, go ahead and go meet in the town of Daneth. You'll be able to basically try to get into the forest from there. But if you don't get permission in Daneth, they may try to kill you on sight." Anyway, we finally found the hairbrush. Signed, Flaming Furnace Trio.
I read the note out loud to everyone, and then I also I don't read the hairbrush part, I just hand that to Iskrim, and just say, just read, and we'll take off, I guess.
Actually, real quick. After Zarrius does all the reading of the script, Astor is going to kind of catch up to him on the bird, and he's just going to make a quick comment to Zarrius in the form of saying, "Hey, so what you and I did back there with the king and queen?" At this point, he puts out a fist as if he's implying to get a fist bump. That's what you call teamwork.
I take it we can't get too close, so we air bump.
Sure.
And I reply with, "Thanks for covering my weak points."
That's what we're here for.
And you guys begin to head south out of the gate to, I'm guessing, the town of Daneth, taking the south road, going along the lake to reach the city at the edge of the forest. Spirits are high. everyone is well rested, and for the briefest of moments, smiles are going across your faces as you head back onto the road to the new location, and we will fade to black.
All right, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for Low Rollers Live. We will be having our post-show after the rolls in just a few moments, so go ahead and reload the page and get the new stream going, and hear a little bit from us about what we think over the last chapter of our time here in Vienna. Once again, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. You can find us every Monday night at 9 p.m. here on twitch.tv. We also do a rebroadcast 5 p.m. Pacific on Wednesdays, so you can catch the Monday show Wednesdays if you're not able to make it. Thank you so much, and please join us after the rolls.